4 hours before the show, as the sound equipment, instruments, and lights were being set up and tested, the fans began to arrive, claiming their spots in the grassy hill which faces the center horse ring at the Durham Fairgrounds. Who was responsible for this enthusiasm, and for the thousands of fans who made a pilgrimage to this rural town in central Connecticut? Grand Ole Opry star, Boxcar Willie.
Good to be here with you.
Boxcar was born Leslie Travis Martin on September 1st, 1931 in Sterrett, Texas, in a little frame house located 6 feet from the railroad tracks. His father worked for the railroad and played the fiddle. While growing up, a family sing-along was a familiar form of entertainment for Boxcar.
This early exposure to music not only prepared Boxcar to perform professionally in honky-tonks and with the Big D Jamboree in Dallas, but also influenced the eventual development of the Boxcar Willie character.
I first thought of the idea way back in 1960, but it was about a 15-year gestation period there. It was 1975 where before I ever really got the thing off the ground.
And was it accepted at first?
Well, it was accepted in a way. The fans loved it, but I had a hard time convincing the industry, you know. The industry kept saying, they always thought it was a gimmick or something, and I don't know if it was some of the people in the industry, was maybe a little jealous or something, but the fans loved it from the beginning.
Boxcar's popularity is demonstrated by the success of his television album, King of the Road, which recently reached the 3 million mark in sales. The magic formula is Boxcar's mixture of original material and country western standards.
I was raised in the era, my mother loved Jimmy Rogers, and I liked Jimmy Rogers, and Roy Acuff and Ernest Tubb. Of course, I was a Hank Williams fanatic growing up, and I love them all if they're country.
I noticed you write some of your own songs, like Daddy Was a Railroad Man.
No, that's a true story, yes. Because my daddy was a railroad man, and when you listen to that song, the things that are described in that song is just exactly what my daddy did.
How about Rusty Guitar Strings?
That particular tune I wrote in a jest one time, and guy said he's cried so hard his guitar strings rusted, and so I sat down and wrote that tune called Rusty Guitar Strings.
I think one of my favorites is Country Music Nightmare.
Now that was just, and the reason, I used to work a lot of honky-tonks, and people get 2 or 3 beers on them, they get a little mouthy, and they're a little more open, and people come up and say, hey, says, old Ernest Arnold's a good friend of mine, or Bill Jones, or not Bill Jones, but George Jones, and so they would always get the names mixed up, that they were good friends of so-and-so. Buck Cash and I used to go to school together. And so the reason I put that tune together.
One of Boxcar Willie's trademarks is a humorous rendition of train whistles, always an audience favorite.
That's a little boy train, and woo! That's a little girl train. Wee wee! Little baby train.
Boxcar's many talents have been recognized throughout the world. He was named International Entertainer of the Year in the United Kingdom for the years 1980 and 81. In 1981, Boxcar was also honored with the Music City News Cover Award as Most Promising Male Artist. Besides his many television appearances, Boxcar has played numerous fairs in many major nightclubs, and most recently was asked to perform at the Smithsonian Institute in a special tribute honoring country great Jimmy Rogers. Credited with these achievements, what goals could remain to be reached in the career of Boxcar Willie?
Oh, a lot of people ask that question, and I never really know how to answer it. I hope that I haven't reached the top of the mountain, but there's a lot of things I'd like to do. I would like to do some television and movie work. I would like to write a hit song that would go down in history, and I want to be voted the most handsome, best-dressed man in America. And I would like to be remembered, you know, kind of like Valentino was, as, you know, the great lover of America. And who knows?
Is there any message you would like to give to the world? Or?
Yeah, I doubt if they pay too much attention to it, but be a little more kind and patient with your neighbor.
Through his love and respect for country greats and their music, his own talents for songwriting, along with his genuine sense of humor, Boxcar Willie, complete with his pin-covered hats and coveralls, will be pleasing himself and record-breaking crowds for many years to come. Reporting for WPL's Crossings, I'm David Burkhart.
I got the boxcar blues, and Lord, I may never get back. Well, I am so lonely, I think I could die. These ain't fences, they're kids.
Choate Rosemary Hall enjoys the reputation of being one of the premier private preparatory schools in the country, offering students a high standard of academic training. Among the diverse educational opportunities is a unique performing arts program housed at the world-renowned Paul Mellon Arts Center. Each spring, Choate Rosemary Hall presents a musical as a part of its effort to provide students with a complete performing arts experience. This year's production happens to be the ever-popular The Boyfriend. Director Terry Ortwine explains why this play was chosen.
We chose Boyfriend because it is a light, non-consequential, fun piece of musical spoof. The musicals we've done the last 2 years were Working, which is based on Studs Terkel's book about workforce in America, and Cabaret, which has to do with the rise of the Third Reich in Nazi Germany and the treatment of the Jews. So the last 2 musicals we've chosen have been pretty heavy spaghetti. And what we try to do in any given year, or certainly in 3 years, assuming most students are here for 3 years, is to give them the widest variety of both non-musicals and musicals that we can in terms of content, style, both for the audiences and for the performers. So nobody gets pegged into only doing one kind of play, you know, like only Shakespeare or only Beckett or only Rodgers and Hammerstein. So this was quite a balance, I think, against the musicals we've had the last couple of years.
Given the diverse nature of the plays presented by Choate Rosemary Hall, many students auditioned for the limited number of roles in each production.
We're very blessed here, I think, that any time we do a show, we have so many more people who audition than there are parts. We had over 100 students audition for this show, and we only cast 25. And that's quite normal that we will have. And in the non-musicals, too. We may have 3 or 4 students audition for every role that's cast. There are a lot of schools in which that's not the case, and you're kind of beating the bushes trying to get people to come out. Here it's almost the reverse. And the day I hate the most as a director is posting the cast list and having 3 out of 4 people disappointed that they're not on it, because that disappoints me too. People think they're not on it because, I mean, they've offered themselves. When you audition, you're not sending something to a publisher in the mail. You're offering yourself, and yourself has not been good enough in some way. And that's very painful. It's painful to make that decision, and as well as it is to receive it.
An audition is nerve-wracking. I mean, it's fun and it's exciting. Everything's exciting in the theater, I guess. I don't know, just to me. But you sing a cappella by yourself in front of everyone, and you know, it's just something that just like grips you. And then if you're called back, if they like you, you call back for dance auditions. And I don't know, the dancing was just incredible. I was astounded because my old school, you had none of this. We did this play, we had maybe 2 dances, you know, all the rest you stood in one spot and sang.
Right.
So, I mean, the difference was just going from, you know, high school theater to something real. You know, this is something real, and I love it. It makes it feel worthwhile, really worthwhile when you see the results.
Right.
It's fun.
Well, I've done about 6 other shows before I've done this here. I've done various other things from, we did a version of Jekyll and Hyde. I was Mr. Hyde. We've done The Serpent, which was a movement piece, was more of an ensemble piece. And of course I've done the musicals too. I did Working. So I've had a pretty good experience in terms of trying different things here.
What do you think of the performance The Boyfriend as a play?
Well, the play itself is not so much of a heavy theater piece. It's more of an escapist piece. It's light music, light acting, a lot of fancy dancing. Its main strength, comes from the fact that people go in, see a very light show. There is no big, heavy meaning or big moral to it. You go in, and basically it's, boy meets girl, boy loses girl temporarily, and then the boy gets the girl again. Everybody gets married, everybody's happy.
I chose to be involved in the musical because, that's what I want to do, perhaps in the future. I'm not quite sure as of now.
Do you consider the work you do in this production a part of your professional experience? I mean, you consider this play a part of your learning experience. It's not just fun.
I think it's a lot of it's a learning experience. For example, since I'm a dance captain, when the directors weren't here, one weekend I was to run the show, the dancing, and act as a direct sort of a teacher, and so it was an experience for me. And the people do listen to me,
Do you feel there's a need to motivate the students, or do you feel that they are self-motivated, and if you need to motivate them, how would you go about doing that?
Oh, they're pretty self-motivated, I think. It's just that there are so many demands on students' time and energy here. It's a little difficult sometimes when you've got a paper due in English the next morning, a history test and a physics lab, and it's 9:30 and the director says we're going to do this just one more time, no matter what, because they're certainly interested in doing the best job they can for the theater and for themselves and to be ready to face an audience, but there are an awful lot of other things they have to attend to at the same time, as opposed to, say, a professional who goes in and does his work and can concentrate on that. The student here is really doing it almost as the 10th thing in his day rather than the first. And so for all the dedication and energy, there's a difficulty sometimes in mustering the concentrated time you need.
Right. Well, if there's that motivation, if there's all that time that's necessary to do other things, how do you think the students benefit from participating in the production? I mean, how do you think?
Well, I guess the proof is in the eating, as they say. I think one of the things is that year after year we have 100 to 150 students try out for the spring musical. And this is in spite of, rather than not knowing, this is in spite of their knowledge of what goes into it in terms of time and commitment, and they want to do it in great numbers. And the people that we get back on alumni weekends and so on, year after year, the first place they hit is the Art Center, so many of these people, because it's been a chance for them to really show that they can excel at something. Right. It isn't just that they've been sort of processed through, but they've had a chance to do something in such a concentrated dose that they can work at their maximum. And that's what we all, of course, want to do. And this is a place they return and feel that again. We get this a lot, both in the auditions and from alumni.
Well, I think the Art Center itself is very good in preparing you if you want to take that chance and move on to other theater, in that you do try other things, a new challenge. This dancing part in the Boyfriend was a challenge for me. Mm-hmm. It's really a well-rounded situation where sometimes you learn to deal with when things are getting a little tougher. You really learn how to deal with theater in all its aspects.
What attracted you to Choate Rosemary Hall the most? What made you feel?
Actually, the Art Center. It had a lot to do with it, but it wasn't the only reason. I came, with a strong liking towards science, and they have a good science department also, but the Art Center and the things that are offered, not just theatrically wise, I do a lot of singing in the courses, and I play the violin, and there's a lot of musical things and art things, and involved with the whole Art Center. It's not just directed towards theater, of course, but it's basically equally distributed.
Choate Rosemary Hall's Performing Arts program creates a unique learning atmosphere for students, whether they're planning careers as professional performers or are simply involved to have a good time. Over the years, the program has evolved to meet the needs of the student population. It not only offers performance opportunities, but also occasions to view visiting professional artists. What are the future plans for the Paul Mellon Arts Center?
Well, I think the basic format will stay relatively the same. What we do is have a mixture of professional work coming from the outside. Next year, for example, we're having the Negro Ensemble Company doing a soldier's play, which is an absolutely beautiful piece of work. We're having the Obie Award-winning off-Broadway play from a couple of years ago, Fool's Fire. We're having Portland String Quartet and Santa Rodriguez, who's one of these superb pianists in the country, and National Theatre of the Deaf we've had. And, you know, we have all of this coming in. We want to keep that because that's a model for students about how far you can go as a professional artist. And certainly we want to keep as many productions and recitals and exhibitions going as we can from students' work. So I think that kind of mix will stay. If anything, I think we may try to do more in the performing arts, more frequent and less elaborate productions, so that maybe instead of one big show in the winter, we'll do 3 smaller ones, something like that, which will tend to allow students who can't maybe commit quite as much time over a long time still to get a chance to do some excellent work in the theater.
The Shoreline Trolley Museum in East Haven. It is one of the oldest museums of its kind in the country. It is a place for sightseers and day outings, but more than that, it is a place to learn about history. Hello, I'm Liz Saccone, and next we're going to explore all the attractions at the museum, including its educational benefits. Just a few minutes from the center of East Haven, tucked away amidst a wooded swamp, is this home for trolley cars. Unlike 40 years ago, when trolleys functioned as the primary mode of transportation in cities throughout the U.S., the trolleys at the Branford Electric Railway serve a different purpose. Debbie Wardle, who shares caretaker duties with her husband, explains how the museum was formed.
Back in 1945, a group of gentlemen got together who were very fond of the trolleys, were rail fans, and they knew that in 2 years the Connecticut Company was going to stop running trolleys in the New Haven area. They felt that it was a very important part of transportation history that needed to be kept for future generations to experience. And in traveling around the area, they discovered this beautiful 1.5-mile private right-of-way that the Connecticut Company operated their trolleys on, and decided that there was no way they were going to be using the buses on this line, and perhaps they would be able to purchase it. They approached the Connecticut Company, and for the scrap value of the rail, the overhead wires, the ties, were able to purchase this track to maintain it as a museum.
During its years of operation, the museum has become a popular recreational outlet, and as a result of recent efforts, it now offers even more.
Yes, this is actually a living museum. It is a place where you can come, ride, the method of transportation, which was the everyday method of travel for many years in the United States. We have everything from horse cars to work service cars, passenger cars. And what we do when you come to visit is, yes, you do have a fun ride, but you're also experience what was the mode of travel for many generations.
The volunteers have organized a package of information designed to bring the streetcar into the classroom.
Now what we're trying to do is emphasize this is not just a place to come for a ride and a picnic end-of-the-year outing. We are an educational institution as well. We have developed during the last year teacher packages, which we send out to all schools who make charters here, and we also send out to teachers who would like a bit of information to use in their classroom, trying to bring streetcars into social studies.
The Brantford Electric Railway Association has a membership of over 800 volunteers, many of whom donate their time on days off, weekends, and vacations to work on the track, operate the cars, and give tours. Fred Sherwood, one of the more active members of the association, tells why he was drawn to the museum.
Simply, probably like all the other members here, they've had model railroads in their younger days, and they were always trolley or railroad buffs, so I'm pretty sure this is just an outgrowth of a youthful interest. And naturally, I'm interested in preservation, so this is why I became active here at the museum.
The museum features a wide variety of trolleys, each with unique characteristics.
Okay, 193 is our Connecticut Company closed car. It's a suburban car. It was built in 1904. It was used in suburban service around Connecticut, and later on it was brought into downtown New Haven and used for rush hour service right up until 1948. And when the museum got the car, it took about 10 years to restore the car to its present condition. The car has rattan seats and beautiful inlaid mahogany paneling. Well, 4573 was built in 1906, and as I mentioned, the open cars were strictly for summer use. 4573 over here was built for year-round use. Right now, as you can see, it's for summer use. For winter, the grills could be removed and windows installed to protect the people during the winter months.
A special exhibit is the Derby locomotive. It is the world's first electric freight locomotive, once making a trip to the 1939 World's Fair. While the life of the trolley car was relatively brief, it played a fascinating part in America's progress. The Shoreline Trolley Museum and others like it are certainly treasured. Of course, all the credit goes to the volunteers who run and maintain the museum, enabling us to enjoy its unique qualities. If you'd like to become a member, just call 467-6927. For Crossings Video Magazine, I'm Liz Saccone.
It was that time of year, time for the annual Durham Fair, the state's largest agricultural exposition. Founded in 1916, the Durham Fair is owned and operated by the Durham Fair Association, a group of dedicated community volunteers. This year's fair, as in the past, offered a wide variety of exhibits, food, rides, and entertainment. Leonard Baginski, president of the Durham Fair Association, commented on this year's happenings.
We, as in other years, have a named professional entertainment, a different one every night. Friday night this year is Boxcar Willie. Saturday is Johnny Russell. Sunday, Mac Wiseman. We have a tractor pull. We have a horse pull, ox pull, pony pull. We have a carriage rally, a horse-drawn carriage rally. This year we've added a new exhibit area near the Midway with educational type exhibits, including guided tours of the agricultural exhibits of the fair.
As with most agricultural fairs, the main ingredients of this year's Durham Fair were the horticultural and vegetable displays. The Midway attractions. The animal exhibits, where the cows, the chickens, the rabbits, the pigs, and the horses captured the hearts of young and old. And of course, the food. For fairgoers who came with a hearty appetite, there was plenty to choose from, with concessionaires offering a large choice ranging from New England clam chowder to the world's best sundae. With so much to choose from, it is no wonder the Durham Fair's popularity has grown. In the past few years, opening day attendance has almost doubled. We asked Mr. Baginski about the fair's success.
Well, Durham Fair is a success for a number of reasons. One is the fact that it's in the town of Durham, and there's a lot of community pride in Durham, and we couldn't exist as a volunteer organization without the help of the volunteers. Okay, and the Durham Fair in the last, I'll say 20 years has really taken off, and one of the reasons is that our directors are not afraid to try something new, but in trying something new, we still are very much aware of the fact that we're an agricultural fair and that we're going to remain an agricultural fair, so that we do emphasize the exhibit departments and we do whatever we have to do to get those exhibits in here.
What are some of the plans for the future at Durham Fair?
Well, the major plan is that we're going to be an agricultural fair. The general plan is that we're going to be doing something a little bit different every year. We really can't expect people to come back every year and see exactly the same thing. We are, in effect, have the same product, but we're going to have a little bit different package every year. In a number of years, next number of years, we'll see additional buildings here. Most of our exhibit departments don't have enough space, and they want more space, and we're going to have to find a way to get it to them.
Is there any plans for expanding the number of days the fair is held?
That has been discussed. The last time it was voted on, it was voted down. My personal opinion is that that will come. I don't know when, though.
This pride, hard work, and willingness to develop is welcomed by both first-time fairgoers and seasoned veterans. What do you think of the fair?
It's fun.
You're having a great time?
Yep.
Well, how long have you been coming to the fair?
About 15 years.
And what is one of your favorite things at the fair?
Right where we're at now, the sheep, the swine, the cattle.
What do you think of the fair?
I think it's great. It's grown a lot since I've been here last. I haven't been here in 8 years, but it's really grown.
Is there any major changes you've noticed?
A lot more, I think, exhibits. They've really improved. I don't know. It's people still great though. Everything's really nice.
What part of the fair do you enjoy the most?
I think the exposition hall. The exposition hall's up there. The crafts, quilts, and stuff like that. I like watching all that, looking at all that stuff.
I can relate.
Grand Ole Opry star Boxcar Willie, who attracted record-breaking crowds for his appearance at this year's fair, explains what there is about a fair that he enjoys.
I always get the feeling I'm back home again when I do the county fairs, and I don't know, if people are in a festive mood, just the word fair, you know, kind of puts everybody in a good mood, and everybody's happy, and so I guess those are the reasons, really.
Is this your first time here at the Durham Fair?
Yes, it is. It really is. I met the fair manager here a while ago, and he gave me this pin here of the Durham bull, but I also surprised him because ever since Boxcar Willie has been in existence, I have worn the bull of Durham on my suit, and I've had it for 8 years. And anytime you see a picture of Boxcar Willie, if you don't see that little thing, it'll be because it got inside the pocket. But I carry and that's off of a bull Durham sack. So unbeknownst to me, I guess I'm kind of associated with Durham and didn't even know it.
Whether the attraction is the exhibits, the rides, the animals, the entertainment, or the food, people will continue to congregate in Durham every September to be a part of the good times that take place at the Durham Fair. Reporting for WPL's Crossings, I'm David Burkhart.